Okay, folks, before we start our meeting, we have a few administrative things to close out an earlier closed session. So the start here will look a little odd, but we'll report on that here shortly. So board members, do we have a motion to re-enter open session?
Motion.
I think I heard Mr. Grigg. Let me get back to my correct page here. Mr. Spurling, was that you?
Second.
Those in favor of re-entering open session, if you would raise your hand. Carries 8-0. To report on closed session, the Board of Education called a meeting to order at 4:20 to hear confidential student hearings. We also received a report from our attorney that the case McKinney versus Cleveland County Board of Education, the Fourth Circuit Appeals Court upheld the dismissal and summary judgment in that, so that lawsuit should be over to the favor of Cleveland County Schools. Do we have a motion to adjourn the closed session?
Motion to adjourn.
Which one was first? All right, Mr. Fitch. Heard a second by Mr. Humphries. Those in favor of adjourning the closed session, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Now we get to start fresh. So the meeting of the Cleveland County Board of Education for July 24th is called to order. And first we have Pastor Paul Scott of Big Springs Baptist Church for our invocation. And Pastor Scott's also a member of the Rutherford County Board of Education, so welcome.
Indeed. Greetings from Rutherford County Board of Education. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Our Father, indeed, we thank you for this day you've given us. And I thank you for our administrators, our teachers, our staff, and most of all, our students in our schools. And as this board convenes to determine the business of the Cleveland County school system, I ask that you would give them wisdom and discernment so that they would continue to develop their students to be the lifelong learners you created them to be. And we ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Fitch, if you'd lead us in the pledge.
Yes, sir. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a few folks to recognize tonight, and I would like to call on Miss Rhonda Benfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm pleased tonight to highlight one of our newest CTE career pathways, which is our EMT program at Kings Mountain High School, and recognize some of the students and the staff who were a part of its success in the first year. 9 seniors completed the program at Kings Mountain High School in its very first year. 2 of those students have been hired and are now working for Cleveland County EMS, and they're here tonight. You're going to meet them shortly. 3 other students have been interviewed, and they are awaiting the required drug screens and background checks. 1 student has applied for a position as a dispatcher with the 911 Communications Center in Cleveland County. Now let's talk credentials. Amazing. 3 students earned the emergency medical responder. That was the capstone credential for the EMT 1 course back in the fall. 3 earned emergency medical technician, which is the capstone for EMT 2, which they took this past spring. And we still have graduates testing for EMT 2, or for EMT. All of these students, all 9 students, earned 8 different FEMA certifications. They earned American Heart Association Basic Life Support CPR, Stop the Bleed, Western Shelter Deployment, National Incident Management Systems, Emergency Vehicle Operator, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, Bloodborne Pathogens, American Health and Safety First Aid, for a total of 166 different certifications among 9 students. Very impressive. And 2 of those students who are here tonight, well, they're not students anymore, they're our graduates, and they are full-time employees of EMS. Michael Lubas. Michael, if you'll come up, and Dr. Fisher has a certificate for you. Zymir Satchel.
Congratulations. Good job.
And then members of Cleveland County EMS, Sammy Davis, the Deputy Director. Carl Lynch, Instructor. And David Trammell, Instructor.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Mr. Davis, Mr. Lynch, Mr. Trammell, it's truly been a pleasure to work with you this past year. And building on the success of that program, it's an exciting thing to have the program expand next year. We'll be having EMT at Shelby High School in addition to the second year at Kings Mountain High School. Michael and Zymir, congratulations to you. We're proud of you and your accomplishment. We'll have a picture.
Next, I'd like to call on David Pless for some athletic awards and recognition.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Fisher, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about our student athletes in Cleveland County. This first slide that you see here, that is our varsity winter sports. These are their weighted GPAs for last semester. If you see, we had 355 kids playing on the varsity teams, and all 26 of the teams had over a 3.0. We had one conference championship this past year, and Jacob Jensen and Alex Tysinger from Burns won the state championship in swimming. We've already recognized them and their families, and also J.D. Curtis won in wrestling, Burns state championship. We've already recognized him. You see, Burns cheerleading was tops with a 3.88. Men's basketball, all four of our schools over 3.2. Kings Mountain with the highest in men's basketball. Women's basketball, all over a 3.3. Kings Mountain with the highest there. Moving on to the next slide, in men's swimming, all four of our teams over a 3.7, with Burns having the highest GPA over 4.0. Women's swim, three out of our four teams there with over a 4.0. Burns with the highest in women's swim, and then men's track and women's indoor track. Kings Mountain are our only teams there, so outstanding GPAs from them. Moving on to our spring sports season, had 506 kids playing this spring. 26 out of 28 with over a 3.0. Had 6 conference champions. Had a state championship with Burns baseball. We're hopeful that they will be able to come back come next meeting and be recognized. They got on a bus this morning going to the state tournament, so couldn't be here tonight. Crest baseball, 4.14. As I said, Burns conference champions and state champions. Burns softball, 4.27. Crest softball won the conference championship. Our softball team's all over 3.8, just outstanding. Women's soccer, all over a 3.8. Crest women's soccer with the highest GPA. Men's tennis, Burns, Dr. Hunnell's son, Ian Hunnell, conference champion. All of our men's tennis teams over a 3.8. Men's track, 3.43. And I want to mention Kings Mountain there. Look how many student athletes they have participating in men's track. 58 kids, outstanding. And then women's track, Kings Mountain with the highest 3.77, and they won the conference. So just want to recognize all of those and say job well done to the teachers and staff, the coaches at all 4 of our traditional high schools. Want to recognize the Coach Jim Taylor Award tonight. Coach Taylor's award is for the school with the highest GPA, non-weighted, of all 4 of our schools. Coach Taylor is here with us tonight. This award is named in honor of him. He served as a football coach and athletic director at Shelby High. He was also our first county athletic director. During his time in athletics, Coach Taylor was very successful in terms of wins and championships, but he was also successful in teaching kids that the importance of doing in the classroom also. Coach Taylor, would you guys come up, help me present this award? Really proud of all 4 of our schools. Each school had over a 3.0. Want to welcome Matt Bridges and Melissa Wilson. They accept this award on behalf of all of us, with Kings Mountain having the highest GPA, 3.44. Have one more recognition tonight. Allie Hollifield. Parents are Ryan and Tina Hollifield. They couldn't be with us tonight. Allie is already at Memphis. Started school early with basketball. I want to read to you what the High School Athletic Association wrote about Allie. Allie was named the North Carolina High School Athletic Association Female Athlete of the Year. So that is for the entire state, best female athlete in the state. Allie Hollifield had a remarkable high school career in 5 separate sports: basketball, cross country, soccer, track and field, and volleyball at Shelby High School. In cross country, she was an all-conference selection in her junior and senior year, while also being selected as the conference runner of the year, qualifying for the state meet this past fall. In track and field, she was a 3-time all-conference selection in 2 events, the 100-meter and 300-meter hurdles, while also participating on the women's soccer team, being selected as all-conference in 2021. In basketball during her career, she was a 4-time all-conference selection, 4-time all-district selection, and 2 times all-state selection. In 2021, she was selected as the most outstanding player for her school after they won the 2A basketball state championship game. She will attend the University of Memphis in the fall on a full basketball scholarship. One thing that I want to add is Allie also, doing all these sports, had a 4.3 GPA. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pless. It's always good to hear the success, especially with our athletes, that they're getting it done in the classroom also. So, next is adoption of the agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to adopt.
Heard Mr. Fitch and Mr. Humphries. Mr. Blanton?
I'd like to amend the agenda
Okay.
to put the board comments back where they were. People cannot stay here as late as some of our meetings run. I'd like that. And I also received the email to where board members' comments is being cut to 2 minutes. And I don't know that for sure, but by my understanding, that it's been cut to 2 minutes. We were elected by the people, and our comments is to let the people know what's going on. So I want to amend the agenda that a board member has the right to talk, and move the public participation back at the front so that if the people wants to talk, they can talk and not have to stay here half the night.
Okay, I got to make sure I know what the motion is, because you said board member comments to start with and switch to public participation. So which part do you want to move?
Public participation, move it back to where it normally was at the start of the meeting.
Okay,
And board members' comments, cutting us to 2 minutes. I got elected by the people to tell them what's going on.
so what's your motion on the board member comments?
Board member comments, make a motion that we have a right to talk just like we've been talking, instead of cutting us to 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to restate your motion. I want to make sure I got it straight. So you're asking to amend the agenda to move public participation back to, which would be the next item, we'll call it
Just like it always
3.01,
was.
and no time limit on board member comments.
That's correct.
All right, is there a second? Any questions or discussion? All right, we'll have to vote on the amendment first. Those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Any opposed? That motion fails 2-6. All right, we have a motion on the floor for adoption of the agenda that was made by Mr. Fitch, second by Mr. Humphries. Any further questions or discussion? Those in favor of the agenda as presented, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed? That carries 6-2. So we have approval of the minutes. There are 3 sets of minutes. First are the minutes of the June 12th business session. Second is the June 12th closed session. And then third is the June 29th called session. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to approve all minutes as presented. Second.
Motion by Mr. Shore, second by Mr. Taylor. Any questions or discussion? Those in favor of the minutes, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed? That carries 6-2. We'll move on to committee reports. First is Finance and Personnel. Mr. Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance and Personnel Committee met on July the 13th. Rob McDaniel gave a brief update on the state budget. Specifically, the state budget is at a standstill. We have heard that the budget will not be approved until the end of August or early September. Dr. Wampler shared a hiring update on the number of licensed and classified school-based vacancies. We are in good shape to be fully staffed with classroom teachers by the start of school in August. The biggest area of concern is EC teachers. All administrative vacancies have been filed. Chairman Shores shared an opportunity to join a lawsuit with other school districts across the nation against social media platforms alleging their negative impact on student mental health. The committee had a brief discussion on whether or not to join and will refer this to the board attorney for review. With no other business, the meeting was adjourned. The next Finance Committee will be August 31st at 12 noon.
Thank you, Mr. Shores. There's one action item in personnel, and that's our traditional personnel report. There are 2 reports. One is the traditional personnel report, and then we have the assistant principal recommendations to the board. So what's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve.
And you're making that motion on both? Okay. Motion by Mr. Taylor,
Second.
second by Mr. Fitch. Those in favor of the personnel report, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed? That carries 6-2. Educational programs, Mr. Humphries.
July 14th, Education Programs Committee was called to order. Dr. Hunnell welcomed Dr. Bennett back to Cleveland County Schools into his new role as Executive Director of Middle Schools and Accountability. Dr. Bennett will be facilitating the district's robotics program also. Paula Peeler shared that the Cleveland County Schools Head Start Self-Assessment Report for the 23-24 school year. Mrs. Peeler also shared financial updates from Head Start. The committee reviewed the end-of-year status report for Head Start. This information included enrollment and academic gains for the past academic year. The committee was pleased with the gains made in the Head Start program. Mrs. Pillar is still awaiting updated information regarding the stabilization grants for the school system that they have submitted information for, and Mrs. Pillar recommended approval for the following items: Cleveland County Head Start self-assessment, May 23 PC/SB report, and the May 23 high school HS financial statement. The committee unanimously approved the recommendations, and the recommendations are to be presented here tonight for board approval. Dr. Parker shared information regarding a math intervention program and reading intervention program. The committee discussed how the reading program could be used with Reading Horizons and Wit and Wisdom to help students achieve the highest level of success. Mr. Shores clarified with the group that the Title I funds will be used to purchase the math intervention. Title I funds and other instructional funds will be used to purchase the phonics intervention. Both intervention programs will be purchased for all elementary schools in Kings Mountain Intermediate. The committee unanimously supported the reading intervention proposal from the 95% group in the amount of $104,468.92 and agreed to recommend approval at the next board meeting. Dr. Hunnell shared that Kings Mountain High School is planning a trip to Puerto Rico and Greece, and Puerto Rico is in 24 and Greece is in 25. Dr. Hunnell shared logistical information regarding the trips. After a period of discussion, the committee unanimously supported the trips, agreed to send this information to the entire board for approval. CTO Ginger Jackson shared information regarding a new solution, Mosyle, M-O-S-Y-L-E, for mobile device management. Mrs. Jackson shared the need for mobile device management and how the technology department utilized the current solution and the features the new solution has that will enable further security with tech devices. Mrs. Jackson shared the potential cost savings with the transition to the new solution. The committee unanimously approved the recommendation for Mosyle as a 4-year subscription for the discounted price of $121,896 to go to the full board for approval at tonight's meeting. Dr. Bennett shared information regarding the district's graduation cohort status. He received requirements for students to be classified for freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior status. He reviewed the course requirements for each level. Dr. Bennett shared information regarding the district status for students who are on track and not on track for timely graduation. Dr. Bennett explained how the district could use this data to improve overall graduation rates, to assure students' schedules are designed for maximum instructional benefit, and to help with scheduling over the summer. Dr. Hunnell discussed accountability data overall. The committee reviewed information about how the system has compared to previous years. Dr. Hunnell shared information regarding 2 programs elementary schools are partnering with in order to help with science instruction. Those are Muddy Sneakers and Starbase. More plans will be shared throughout the school year. Dr. Schultz shared an update with school social media use and best practices. Dr. Schultz will continue to develop plans for effective use of social media platforms. And with no new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next Education Programs Committee is scheduled for Friday, September the 1st at 11.
Thank you, Mr. Humphries. We do have several action items in educational programs. First are the Head Start reports. There are 4 reports. One is the end-of-year status report for 22-23. We have the Cleveland County Head Start self-assessment for 22-23, the Head Start financial report for May of 23, and the Head Start Policy Council summary for May of 23. Those do come from committee, recommended for approval. Are there any questions or discussion? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed?
Well, go ahead.
Was that a yay or a nay?
Yeah.
Okay. So that carries 8-0. Next is the 95% group intervention program. the company is 95% Group is the name, and there's a training package and then several lesson libraries. Total amount is $104,468.92. That comes from committee, recommended for approval. Any questions or discussion?
I just want to let the people know that we've got two outstanding directors of running those departments. I'm not in that committee, and I've been put off my other committee. But we got two outstanding people, and I really trust them two guys that's running those departments and what they need to make our schools better.
Any other comment? Okay, those in favor of the 95% phonics intervention program, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Then we have the Kings Mountain High School field trips. This will be for 2 trips, one to Puerto Rico in 2024 and one to Greece in 2025. I believe this is with EF Tours that our school system has used before. Any questions or discussion? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Last is the mobile device management system, MOSL. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The total for that is, and this is a 4-year subscription, is $121,895.16. Any questions or discussion on that? This comes from committee for approval. Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Next is operations. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Chairman Queen. The July 4th Operations Committee meeting was called to order at 9 o'clock by Chair Greg Taylor. Dr. Stephen Fisher presented invoice number 5 for $200,222.77 for approval from T.C. Strickland related to the Shelby High Fieldhouse project. This invoice will be paid from SCIF grant funding as discussed in previous meetings. This was unanimously approved by the committee and will go to the full board for approval at their July meeting. Dr. Fisher also presented a request to purchase a couple walk-through metal/weapon detectors for each of our traditional high schools. The lowest bid is for $151,638.38. This was unanimously approved by the committee and will go before the full board at tonight's meeting. Dr. Jennifer Wampler and Chip Childers provided the capital projects report for review by the committee. This report will be attached to the board's agenda in July as an information item. Cleveland County Schools owns a house beside East Elementary. Due to declining enrollment, the house and land are no longer needed. Therefore, it has been recommended that this house be declared surplus and sold if not wanted by the county. The committee unanimously approved this recommendation, and it will go to the board for full board approval. Dr. Wampler shared an update on the auditorium, specifically numbering of the student and bus parking spaces. A sump pump and pressure washing were discussed as changes and additions. Pressure washing is planned for the main school building and other permanent structures and was not part of the original project. This will be covered through contingency or district funds. The committee supported these changes unanimously. These changes and additions do not require board approval and are presented as information. Dr. Wampler and Dr. Fisher shared that an RFQ for an architect for a building addition at Bethware Elementary and Kings Mountain Middle will be released and posted online on July 24th, 2023 for consideration in September of 23. With no additional business, the meeting was adjourned. Next Operations Committee meeting is scheduled for Friday, September 1st at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. There are a few, Mr. Blanton.
I got some questions on this. Number 5, since I hadn't been able to attend my meetings because I was suspended or excused to September, I thought we was already down to our last funds.
Let's hold that till we get to that. That is an action item, and we can discuss that.
Okay, well, let's see. All right, well, which item you going to take, and I'll go on that then.
Well, it's on the agenda. The first one is the metal detectors.
Okay, we'll go that first then. I'm good.
All right. So We have a recommendation from the committee to approve purchase of 8 metal/weapon detectors. That'll be 2 detectors each for the 4 traditional high schools. That is with GXC Incorporated. Total amount's $151,638.38. Any questions or discussion on the metal detectors? And as I understand, we have a grant request in for more. That typically comes in, is it November or September? September, okay. So hopefully we can purchase more, but any questions or discussion? Those in favor of that purchase, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. All right, next is the SCIF invoice number 5 for Shelby High School. This is from T.C. Strickland. It's invoice number 5 in the amount of $200,222.77. And this will be paid from the SCIF grant. Comes from committee recommended for approval. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Black.
Yes, sir. Well, the last meeting I was at, we was down to, we was gonna approve like a $70-something thousand, and then that left like $40-something thousand left. But this bill here, and we sent a check out by what our meeting showed last time that we paid a bill. And here another one for $200,000 when there wasn't but $43,000 or $49,000 left. That we had used up what had been allotted. In other words, at the last meeting I was at, they were just was it between 40 plus or minus or 70,000 was all was left of their money. Well, that check, if that was the case, a 40 or 70,000, and this check's being wrote for 200,000, I'd like to know how that come about. Because
we explained at the last meeting that 200,000 additional was allotted out of the SCIF grant to go toward the Shelby Fieldhouse. So
so have they went over their $1 million?
Well, with payment of this invoice, it'll be 1.133.
That wasn't what we agreed on and that we voted on in this meeting right here. We had done voted what we was gonna give to each school. Shelby, Kings Mountain, Crest, and Burns.
And it was explained at the last meeting, there's 4.9 million came in SCIF grant. That was for athletic projects. Crest and Burns are getting $1.25 million apiece. Now this is allotted. We've not done any bidding. Drawings are not complete. It's budgeting numbers. I believe it was 1.1 or 1.2 allotted for Kings Mountain's press box. And originally, yes, we said 900,000 for Shelby.
That's exactly right.
And the committee agreed, and it was approved to move that allotment to 1.1 million.
The committee, well, I wasn't on that committee, I guess, but I wasn't there. But the thing about it, the one I was there, this is what was left. And y'all added more money to it, and then the people don't know. That's the reason I sat here, to let the people know what's going on with this board.
You didn't let me finish. There was also included in that SCIF grant lighting for the football stadiums. And because the American Legion donated lights to the baseball stadium at Shelby, we were able to take those lights and put them at Shelby and Crest. And what would have normally cost us $700,000 or more, we got done for a little over $300,000. So we're not having to spend all the money that was in the SCIF grant for lighting. So we allotted $200,000 more for the Shelby Fieldhouse. It's still SCIF money. It's what it was in there to start with. Are there any other questions or discussion?
Well, I might have another one. But I'm just going on what we say. But we keep changing things.
Well, Mr. Blanton, if you'll go back and review our last board meeting on film, you'll see that I explained exactly what I've just explained, and the allocation is 1.1 million. If you want to argue that we're $33,000 over, then fine. But
Okay.
those in favor of invoice 5 for the Shelby High School Fieldhouse, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed?
I'll have to vote yes on
Okay, that carries 7-1.
It's not that I'm
Sir.
against that, but I'm just going on what we state that on doing. But you gotta remember something else. We spent the year before $300 and something thousand on electrical. And then the next thing I know, the reason we done that update really is because of, the field house. And I don't have a problem with the new field house, but the thing about it, there's things
We have
gets.
always agreed to provide infrastructure. We have to supply power and sewer and water to those.
That's correct, but,
So, well, that's been
Okay.
voted on. So the next item is surplus property. This is a house, a small house across from East Elementary. As far as I know, it's not been occupied in years. It is boarded up. And the recommendation is to declare that as surplus. And to remind folks, as you go through the process, we have to declare it surplus first. Should the board approve that, it will go to the county commissioners to see if they desire the property. Should they want the property, then we negotiate with them. If they decide they don't want the property, then the school board has the right to sell that. And I think there's a couple of options on ways we sell that. But, so the recommendation tonight is just to declare the property surplus. Mr. Blanton.
well, I gotta go back to some of the other surplus. I know it's about this right here, but we've surplus 2 schools that, the city of Shelby voted the other night that we've got 350 new houses going over
Mr. Blanton,
Jefferson.
I'm going to have to call that out of order. We're discussing East Elementary. It has nothing to do with Marion.
Okay, have we got our money for, Kings Mountain High School yet, the old central services?
The school extended that for, I think it was 180 days in March. So they still have till September, October. I'd have to look at the dates.
We might have to have that house to put some kids in.
Any other questions or discussion on East Elementary, the house at East Elementary? Those in favor of declaring that property surplus, if you'd raise your hand. Any opposed? That carries 7-1. Policy Committee, Mr. Humphries.
The Policy Committee met on July the 11th. I led the Policy Committee in a review of policies 2230, 2302, 2320, 2321, and 2325 as part of the committee's ongoing review of the board's policy manual. No suggestions or edits were made. I asked that the Safety Committee review House Bill 605. We feel like we're already in compliance with this law, but since it was recently approved, I would like for the Safety Committee to review that also. So is that a formal pass on to Rodney? Is that good enough? Okay, okay. The committee reviewed and discussed Senate Bill 49 at length in relation to our current practices and policies. We feel like that we've covered all of that, and that bill has not, the governor vetoed that bill, but there's been no move to override that veto at this point. So, with no new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next Policy Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August the 29th at noon.
Thank you, Mr. Humphries. There are 3 policies presented for first read. The first one is Policy 2123, which is Board Member Opportunities for Development. And I think there's just a technical clarification there. 2125/7315 is confidential information. And 2310 is public participation at board meetings. So those 3 are for first read. So if you have any questions or comments, if you would contact our Policy Committee before the next meeting. So next we have our Safety Committee report. Mr. Fitch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The meeting was called to order. Rodney Borders gave an overview of the single portal regarding the intake of students from outside the county needing additional district and school support. He shared the various aspects of the process and how service providers come together to make appropriate plans and arrangements for students with higher level significant needs to be properly placed and cared for in schools in an expedited manner. Greg Scholl then provided a school map of Crest Middle School and facilitated a discussion regarding the naming conventions of the vertical and horizontal hallways within the school buildings and the use of the placement of identification labels for classrooms both from the interior and exterior perspectives. Scholl was tasked to complete the mapping process and to create a makeup of the labels for further consideration at the next safety committee meeting. Interior door markers as well as an appropriate naming system for the hallways cameras were also discussed and noted for future conversation at upcoming meetings. The committee will continue to advance this conversation in building a universal strategy for educators and emergency responders. The committee directed Scholl to begin mapping the discussed naming conventions and to bring an update to the next safety committee meeting for conversation and modifications. The committee also briefly discussed the trajectory of walk-through high-volume metal detectors and was provided an update on the district's visitor management system rollout. With no new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next safety committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 29th at 12 noon.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. I'd like to call on Dr. Fisher for superintendent's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have a few updates for you tonight. This information is also in your packet. Just want to highlight a few things. I want to first brag on our operations team. Dr. Wampler is not here tonight, she's on vacation, but Chip Childers is in the building, and just appreciate their work that they've done over the summer and highlighting and facilitating lots of these operations updates. The auditoriums, things at the auditoriums are going good, are going extremely well. We are finalizing the summer phase, second summer phase of that. Last summer was an important phase. This summer is an important phase. If you've been by those schools, you can see the work that's being done. I encourage you to ride by there and see that. We have HVAC improvements going on across the county. Had the opportunity to visit several schools week before last, walk through there, and lots of really good stuff going on in those schools. And some of those schools, the projects are finishing up, getting ready for the start of school. Crest and Burns, where our projects were most expansive, that will continue throughout the school year. I appreciate not only our operations team at the central level, but at the school, their patience and understanding throughout this process. We've created, we said it, I know it was said many times, it's going to be 2+ years of mess, especially at Burns and Crest High, and it has been. Hopefully we're closing in, looking towards the finish line on both of those projects as we move forward. I'll show you some pictures in just a few minutes of all of our projects. But if you go around the county, lots of things being done. Good article in the Star last week about all the capital projects that we're doing. I think this board is to be commended for the vision in terms of what we're doing with our operational dollars, with our ESSER funding, spreading those dollars as far as we can, getting some real good things going on. Several of you had the opportunity to see one of our schools at the end of last week, and just the really high-end, high-quality work that's being done in those schools. It looks really good as they're finishing those sections. As we mentioned, Mr. Taylor mentioned as a part of the operations update, we today, by the end of today, we will post the request for qualifications for Beth Ware and Keats Mountain Middle School projects. We want to go ahead and begin the work and looking and planning for those projects. We want to be ready when funding comes and is available for those projects. So that information will be posted. You have the opportunity to go online and look at that. Timeline is included. Anybody that's interested in that, you can send them to our website. If they have particular questions, you can have them call Dr. Wampler or myself. Mentioned personnel and staffing. Obviously, that gets a lot of conversation this time of year. You probably hear on the news some horror stories in other districts about where they are with staffing. We are in a pretty decent place. We'd like to say at this time, we're fully staffed, we have no staffing issues, concerns. That's not the case. However, I feel good about where we are, especially given the time we have before school. It seems like that's right around the corner. Some of our residency licensed teachers will begin some training next week. So that is, that time is upon us, but we feel good given where we are compared to where we could be and with the openings we have. Obviously, things change, and sometimes you don't anticipate an opening and end up having one. Dr. Wampler and her Human Resources team have done a phenomenal job. I can't say enough about the work that our school principals have done to make sure our schools are staffed. We're really working hard to recruit high-quality staff members and making sure that our schools are ready to go. Was visiting a school today, visiting with a principal who had a position hired, and then the person ended up turning that down after they started it and realized that's not what they wanted to do. It was a classified position in their school. So now we're here at the end of July, and they're starting that process over. So we have some of those things, and we have some of those things during the year, but all things considered, we're in a pretty good spot. State budget update. I really don't have an update other than to tell you we don't have a state budget. The last information that we have coming out of Raleigh from the General Assembly is mid to late August at the earliest. I would probably suggest that's closer to the end of August, maybe the beginning of September before that budget is passed. And just as a reminder, once that budget's passed, it takes a little bit of time to implement that. They go through technical corrections and work through that. So keep you in the loop on that, but I do not anticipate anything till the second half of August. Just a few important dates to remember. I just said that residents licensed staff, they're day one, so we'll have teachers beginning next week on August 1st, being in our building here for some introductory training with those residency licensed teachers. August 7th is the first day of the early college high school. So their folks are eagerly anticipating that. August 8th is our first teacher work day, traditional teacher work day. It's Tuesday, August 8th, and then August 16th is the first day of school. So other than the Cleveland Early College campus, all of our campuses will be up and running on August 16th. So it seems like in some ways we've just finished graduation. We've just had that, and now we're turning around and getting ready to start school. In my update to you, I mentioned several school and district administrator trainings we've done this summer. We've done training on board policy. We've done training on human resources practices. We've done training on budget and finance. Lots of really good conversations that we've had with our school and district administrators this year. I think we've taken a different approach this year. Instead of doing it all in a couple days, we had 6 Wednesdays where we met every Wednesday morning for 2 hours and really had some really good training and professional development for our principals. So really appreciate their work and their attention to that throughout the summer. So we're excited about the school year beginning. The summer is winding down quickly, and August is here. As we complete this week, August 1st hits, it really ramps up. We begin athletic practices, lots of things going on in schools. So it's a busy time of year. So got a few pictures in front of the auditorium. As you go by, you can really see those auditoriums taking shape there at school. That's the Burns Auditorium. That's the inside. Again, that's the Burns Auditorium. You can really see how the layout of those auditoriums are going to be. That's the Crest Auditorium that's taken from the side of Crest High School. Again, we've mentioned that the Burns Auditorium project's about a month ahead of Crest, and so the timing of that has gone really well. But both of the summer phases are going well. Had a report from Mr. Yarbrough last week, and things seem to be on really good schedule for being in a position where we can start school there in August. See the interior of the Crest Auditorium. That's from the back of the auditorium. The green lift there is like in front of the stage. So that white, like you can see the painted white wall in the background, that is the back of the stage there with that. Feel free to stop and ask any questions as we go through. Trying to advance the slides. That's down the hallway. I believe that's at Crest High School. You can see that's the new ceiling that's been installed. Still lots of stuff in the hallway, but that gives a nice, clean look. When you go in those schools, really the biggest difference is that really nice ceiling and the brightness of the lights. The LED, those hallways look really good there. Got some other pictures here. Some new HVAC unit being installed in that classroom. Obviously, that's an early work because as those units go in, those rooms are painted. everything's done there, so that's in the room. And I think there's different stages inside those schools. I believe that's Crest High School as well. That's kind of not the same classroom, but another picture of what's being done there. That classroom's been finished. You can see the paint. Obviously, that teacher's gone back and put her stuff in that classroom. Moving to Shelby High School, some work had been done in the gymnasium. There's Shelby High School as well, again, with the HVAC projects in that school. You can see we've had some messes in our schools. You know, construction, that turns into a mess in a lot of those schools, but lots of good things working. We'll be ready for school to start. You can see this classroom there with the grid, the ceiling grid out. Different stages. Classroom at Burns High School, that's down that main hallway. Your office, if you think of you walk in the front door, your office is down on the right-hand side there. That's looking down towards the back part of that building. Student parking, teacher parking will be out that back door. Another picture of the unit there in the classroom. That one's not finished. You can see the floor hasn't been cleaned, and that finished painting has not been done in that classroom. Another classroom process there working. That's HVAC unit Kings Mountain, a little different process and setup for those rooms, just depending on the project and the scope of projects we've done. As you remember, because of cost in that, we shaved that project back down a little bit and didn't do a total renovation there at that school. All right. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions, Mr. Quinn, that anybody may have.
Any questions?
May I ask,
Mr. Sperling?
so, do you foresee these projects being completed by the beginning of school? And if not, how severely is it going to impact daily business as we start school again?
Well, we know Crest and Burns will not be. We knew that from the very beginning. They're still in those phases, so we know that will be a continual project. I think we're in good spots. We're, I believe, in the tip here. Am I correct in saying we either on schedule or ahead of schedule in most of our projects?
Kings Mountain will be done.
Kings Mountain will be done.
Shelby, we're still waiting on 11.
Okay. We don't have a lot of anxiety, even if we're waiting a little bit to be able to get started on that.
And all the grading at Crest and Burns will be done this summer, so the finished parking lots will be in place for football season at Crest, and so that will help a lot.
Those campuses are going to really look good once we get finished with all that final stuff and get all that out of there. Pressure washing being done on those campuses, it's going to look really good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Fisher. We'll move on to public participation. Mr. Shores, if you could
Yes,
cover
Mr.
the
Chair.
rules on that.
Public comment should not address any specific confidential student or personnel matter. Specific concerns related to confidential student or personnel matters should be directed to the superintendent or designee. No profanity, vulgar language, or personal abuse against any person will be permitted. The board vests in its chair or other presiding officer authority to terminate the remarks of any individual when he or she does not adhere to the rules established above. Any person who willfully interrupts and disturbs a board meeting may be directed to leave the meeting by the presiding officer. Any person who refuses to leave may be prosecuted for disrupting a public meeting. Persons appearing before the board are reminded as a point of information that the members of the Cleveland County Board of Education are without authority to act independently as individuals in official matters. Immediate answers are not generally possible and must be deferred pending investigation and consideration by the full board.
Thank you, Mr. Shores. Our first speaker is Brandon Bridges.
Good afternoon. It's far as moving the meeting to the end of as far as moving the public participation to the end of the meeting, I think it's a good thing in at least one way. Whenever we have it at the first of the meeting, we have the whole meeting for you guys to discuss everything you have to discuss, and you can't remember what we have to say. It's my hopes that whenever it's possible, that you guys will be able to address some of our concerns mentioned in public participation, with it being towards the end of the meeting, with it being fresh on your mind. So I don't know how it's going to work out, but maybe it will. As far as school nutrition goes, that's what I signed up for to talk about today. One good thing that's happened in the last few months, amongst all the other things that have happened to have various opinions on, is the fact that all the kids in the schools are going to have free lunch. What that means for you guys in the school system is that everybody's meal is going to be paid for, which means you ain't going to have to worry about it. Ain't going to have to worry about behind bills or nothing like that. So I'm coming back around. We went out to Greenville and saw how they did it. I talked to people. I talked to county commissioners. You can get a grant. Y'all talking about grants. You can get a grant, get a lot of equipment paid for, it says Greenville County Schools. And I went to a commissioner and talked to them, and they couldn't speak for the entire commissioner board, but they said there was a really good chance that they would put the money up to get those assessments done for what equipment was needed at all of these schools. Last year, they trialed some new food at some of these schools that was really taken, they really liked it, the kids really liked it. The question I have for you is, are they still going to be serving those new foods and trying more new foods, or was that just a trial? Because it was a little bit unclear to me at that time, and I don't know if that's something that was going to be done permanently or not. And one thing I'd like to say, in the last 3 or 4 months, as far as the school board goes, there's been a lot going on, and there's been a lot of effort put in by everybody on the school board. Regardless of how you feel about events that have happened and transpired in the last quarter of the year, nobody can deny that a lot of work's been put in by the school board for everything that's happened. So I would ask, if you would, to try to harness that gumption that you have to take care of business, to at least take a look into what you can do for school nutrition, because I've had people ask me, why do you speak at school board meetings? You ain't got no kids, you don't work in the school system, there ain't nobody related to you. Well, the answer to that question is this: I'm a taxpayer and I work in Cleveland County, and I'll probably live here for the rest of my life. And the quality of the people that come out of our schools, the quality of their education, is going to have a direct correlation on how the people operate in life whenever they get out of high school and work with the rest of us. None of us can work good, and they ain't got no good food to eat. And I know I sounded like a hillbilly with that, and I'm sorry for that, but, I've talked to so many people, and there's people here tonight that I've vehemently disagreed with on so many issues, but I've not had anybody disagree with me on the fact that these kids could use better school food. So my ask is, if you would just take a look, regardless of where it came from and regardless of who's worked on it, take another look into seeing what you can do to have some better school food for these kids. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. Next is Dina Cook.
Good evening. For over a year and a half now, I've watched members of the public and this school board become more and more at odds with one another, and honestly, it breaks my heart. I would like to see this come to an end and a true partnership of mutual trust and respect for each other to occur. Hurtful words and opinions have been expressed by some of the school board members as well as members of the public. Let's all agree to lay our personal agendas and biases to the side for the greater good, which is our children. 90% of students in the 4th through the 8th grades report that they have been bullied or harassed. Students in grades 6 through 12 report 9% of them have been cyberbullied. You have a cyberbullying expert on the board, Mr. Joel Shores. Are you utilizing his expertise in this skill set? If not, is there a way that you could be utilizing him better in a better effort to help protect our children? Statistics suggest that the number one motivator for school shootings in the U.S. is revenge due to being bullied. We need to be at the forefront of this in order to help protect our children. I would like to see a monthly report presented to this board on any bullying, harassment, or physical altercations that occur in Cleveland County schools. These statistics should be tracked and measured against the national average. From my research, I'm not aware of any school system in North Carolina that actually tracks these events, thus giving us an opportunity to lead our state by example and set a standard of no tolerance for these events. Right now, North Carolina is 19th in the nation for bullying, and I would venture to say that we could actually be worse than what the school systems say because nobody tracks this. We need to be transparent about what is happening in our school systems in order to identify the needs that can then be addressed with solutions. We must do better together for our children. I would like to ask that the anti-bullying task force that ended in 2021 please be reinstated. This task force should be charged with identifying, tracking, and finding solutions to any bullying, harassment, or physical altercation incidents that occur in Cleveland County schools. I would also like to see Cleveland County Schools partner with Parents Against Bullying of North Carolina to help address these concerns and issues. Instead of working against one another, we should be championing together the fight for our children to be safe in all situations. We cannot afford to become another Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee, where 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults were killed in a mass shooting in March 27th of this year. Our children and our staff deserve better. We must do better. The only way for this to happen is for all of us to lay down our pride and work together. Matthew 25:45 is Jesus speaking, and he says, "He will reply, truly, I tell you, whatever you do for one of the least of these, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me." I believe that not only was Jesus talking about the sick and the hungry, but he was talking about the least of these, which includes our children. Will you join me in this effort? Because you and I can't do this separately, but we
Ms. Cook,
need
your
each
time has
other, and our
expired.
children need to see a united front.
Thank you. Our third speaker is Nanette Linhart.
Good afternoon. And I'm not speaking to one particular person on the board. I'm speaking to, all of you. When I say that when you vote, a majority is like you've been seeing tonight, 7-2, 6-2. But a unanimous vote means all 9 of you vote. Okay? So I'm just kind of laying that out there. Be careful how things are worded. So, or spoke. And also, when these heating and air systems come on, we can't hear Greg Taylor or Ron. I mean, we can't hear you guys. And I know, get your microphones down. I want to hear you, And so, let's see. And safety, all of you guys are smart. I know just about every one of you's background. That's intelligence. And I appreciate you guys serving. I wish there was a gal up there, maybe soon. But, safety is, when you consider assets, your home, your car, your businesses, your animals. Well, our children are our assets, and I want them to be cared for. I want them to be safe when they get on the bus or a car, go to school. I'm just wanting them to be safe. So we all use email, text, voicemail, and phones and laptops. So why? For months, I've been coming here. Why do I get the feeling that some of you don't know what's going on this board? This is your board, our board. It appears some of you members don't know what the other members, what's happening. And there's no excuse for that. And so, let's see. And independent thinkers, where are you guys? It's always 6-2, 6-3, whatever. Where's our independent thinkers? What's happened? So, and I'm just going to lay this out there. Burns High School, we have not forgot. Censoring other board members, we have not forgot. And so that was wrong. That was wrong. So I dare say that voting come November 2024 is going to be a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't tell the next name if that's Jenny or Jamie. Jenny Hassler. I'm sorry.
Hello again, Jenny Hassler, Concerned Mom. I have a lot of data to get into tonight, so I'm just going to dive right into it. I'm again asking for clarification on how Cleveland County Schools will serve the children of the Shelby Zone with the closure and sale of 2 elementary schools. I've spent many hours over the past 6 weeks reading and rereading all iterations of the facility study and watching all of the pertinent meetings. Here are some things that I have discovered. The capacity percentages and alignments for the 2019-2020 baseline did not include pre-K. I've requested those numbers from the Office of School Readiness, but I have yet to receive them. Based on what I could find on a North Carolina state government site, the available elementary capacity in Cleveland County School was inflated by 7%. In the Shelby zone in particular, this means that there were over 100 less seats than stated. Last meeting, Chairman Queen asserted that there are 3,000 open seats across the Cleveland County schools. Not quite. That number, again, is not inclusive of pre-K and is inclusive of North Shelby, Turning Point, and our middle and high schools, all of which have ample capacity. When you consider elementary only, that number is actually only 1,150, which may still sound like a lot, but the number of available seats in Shelby zone, based on target capacities, is 24, with Jefferson and Elizabeth already over their target capacities. A further note on target capacities, in the January 25th, 2022 meeting, Dr. Fisher stated that the target capacities should allow for things like music and art to have their own classrooms. Jefferson was almost on the nose for target capacity this past year and did not, in fact, have space for those things. This indicates to me that the capacities are inflated and that we actually have even less seats. This has been emphasized to me by the many messages I have received from area teachers saying they don't believe their schools could fit that many kids. And even if the target capacities are accurate, is operating over them for years with no plan the best we can do for our kids, really? Also last meeting, Chairman Queen stated that it is cheaper to move lines on a map than it is to build a new elementary school. And I just said that there are 1,150 seats available in our elementary schools, so problem solved, right? Not exactly. The closest schools to Shelby Zone are also approaching their target capacities. In fact, of the 1,150 seats, 3 hold 41%, 3 schools, Union, Kaiser, and Falston. Each have 150 available seats. So which Cleveland County school students are going to get bused to the northern part of the county? I'm happy to provide sources for any and all of this information, as well as details on the number, for anyone who wants to review them, so that hopefully the taxpayers, parents, and most importantly, the children of Cleveland County can get a better solution than the one you guys have given us so far.
Next speaker is Robert Williams.
"6 feet. I'm sitting right there and I couldn't understand hardly a word she said. I signed up to speak about policies. One of them is the public participation policy. Public participation policy that you have, Cleveland County Schools, that you use tonight and move public participation to the end, is in total violation of Executive Order 246, which was issued 2 years ago, or a year ago, because public participation needs to be improved. What you did tonight, 6 of you did, is you have gone backwards. You've gone against the Order 246 by the governor. I don't know why you did that. You didn't explain it. I would like for the 6 board members that voted against having this at the front of the meeting where public participation belongs, because what's going to happen is every word tonight is going to be lost in the record. You don't put in the minutes what they're saying, what everybody says, what anybody says, so it's going to be lost. And you had some real good ideas come out tonight, and it's going to be lost because you put it at the end of the meeting. And I've got an opinion on that, but I don't have time to explain that, but you'll know about it soon enough. And I'd like to give my vote of confidence to the 2 school board members that voted against moving the public participation back up to the front of the meeting where it belongs. Because who knows during the course of the meeting what you guys are going to say and what you're going to discuss. And everything that happens at the end, you throw away. It's all going to be gone. Now, you've got some other policies too that I had some questions. Why would you want to take a policy that's in place now, and I noticed you looked at the clock hoping I'd finish, be thrown off the board or out of here or some reason, but why do you have a policy that you reviewed and it's okay, and you're going to renew it again, or you're going to update it, put a new date on it? That's a big question. I don't know why you did that. Why don't you explain things like that? Thank you. 7 seconds left.
All right, we'll move along to board member comments. Mr. Fitch.
No, sir.
Mr. Sperling.
I'd like to congratulate our athletes on your achievements, not only sports-wise, but also academically. I think it's amazing, the academics that we have that Mr. Pless showed tonight. I'd also like to congratulate our EMS program, brand new program. I am a huge proponent of CTE programs. I don't know if y'all knew I was a teacher, CTE teacher. I still teach CTE programs at the community college, and I am a huge fan of all of that. So congratulations to not only the EMS program, the new program coming on at Shelby next year, and to our entire CTE program.
Thank you. Mr. Black.
I got 3 things. First of all, I amended the agenda tonight, if y'all will remember, doing it by the rules. At our last meeting, they didn't amend the agenda to go into closed session and change the agenda. So there's a policy that broke. That's one. I got an anonymous letter last week from someone and said that I voted on a personnel report to hire somebody that didn't need to be hired because of somebody else. I don't know who it was or whatever, but ever who wrote me that anonymous letter and sent me that, if they will send me the names of who those people were, I'll be glad to turn it over to Dr. Fisher and see if it'd be handled. And on our minutes tonight, on the operations, I wasn't at that meeting because I'm not allowed at the meeting. And they got on there that I voted no in that meeting. I voted nay. I wasn't there. I didn't vote nay or yes because I wasn't there, because I can't be there. But it's right there on our minutes. If you'll go back and look at our minutes, you'll see where they got me showing that I voted no or nay on that money. You know, if it had been explained to me then, you know, it might have been a different thing. But don't put something on the minutes that I didn't say. And I don't have a copy of the capital outlay here. I sat up here and went through it instead of paying attention to y'all, and I could not pull it up. But I'm not a computer whiz anyway. But folks, I'll try to let you all know what's going on in Cleveland County. Please ask me, come forward, whatever. Oh, I guess my time's up.
Mr. Humphries.
Yeah, I'd also like to reiterate how proud we are of our student athletes. We're school system, the academics come first, and our athletes are doing an excellent job of that. I'd also like to just briefly, very briefly, talk about how excited I am about our upcoming STEM programs, how we're progressing with the reading in the system. We're doing some really good stuff. We'll have some numbers coming out on that soon. Head Start, was absolutely remarkable last year, how far the needle was moved for those students. That was life-changing for those students. And I will address Brandon. During the summer, some of our meetings, I've had the opportunity to taste some of those new dishes they're working on. They are actively working on menus. And also, I have a gluten issue. And a growing number of our students are gluten intolerant. So they're also working very hard on their gluten-free menus. So they're to be commended for that. That takes a lot of work to do that. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gregg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank everybody that did come and speak tonight. I appreciate all the input that you put out here to us. Believe me, it has been heard. If not by all, it has been heard by me. There's not a lot I can say in 2 minutes. I had a lot of things I wanted to talk about tonight, but I will limit a couple of things here. You know, we did have an evaluation for the superintendent recently, and I had a discussion with Dr. Fisher and explained to him why I could not give him an evaluation. Looking at all the questions that was on that particular evaluation, there was no way for me to know how to answer those and to know for sure that he was doing the things that was in that evaluation. And he agreed with me. He said, you'd have to follow me around all day. So I declined doing the evaluation this time, and we agreed that we would make a plan for next year where we could have broke down sessions to where we can understand the evaluation. Some of the board members said they called him and talked to him, but to me, I shouldn't have to ask him the answers to give him his evaluation. I should know them and I should be able to see them. The second thing is that we voted on a raise. I don't have anything against Dr. Fisher, but due to always hearing about our financial situation here in this school system, I couldn't see giving a raise at this time. It's nothing personal, but this is business for me, and I have to look after this as business. So I could not give him a raise and a vote to give him a raise. And I think somebody might have said that it was unanimous, but it was not unanimous. Nothing against Dr. Fisher, and I want y'all to know that. I think he's a great guy. But I just could not see doing a raise at this time. We've got a lot of good things that's going on
Gregg,
in.
that's been a little over 2 minutes.
Okay.
Mr. Taylor?
None at this time, thank you.
Mr. Shores?
About a year ago, I had the opportunity to go sit down with the Director of Communities and Schools, and she presented me a lot of material of success stories that Communities and Schools had done. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go do a Q&A session with some students. I don't know how many were there. There was a classroom full of students that were involved in Communities and Schools. People can tell you all the success stories they want to tell you, but until you see it and talk to these kids, you really just don't understand what some of the kids in this school system are going through. I won't repeat some of the things I learned out of respect for the students. But if you're the only student, you're the only person in your household that speaks English, that's pretty rough. I did not know until recently we have 9 different languages spoke in our schools. 9. Most people would say, well, it's probably Spanish. That's probably the number 1 other than English, but 9. And just to see some of these kids, I would encourage all board members, and I'm sure the director would love for you to come, talk to her, or come and have a Q&A with these students, because they taught me something. And it's always good when I can learn something from kids, and especially these kind of kids. So keep those kids in your prayers. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm trying to reset my own timer. I would like to reiterate a few things Dr. Fisher said. Our custodial staff and maintenance department has done one outstanding job this summer. Dr. Fisher and I toured several Kings Mountain schools a few weeks ago, and as we're walking around, I kept asking him, so who moves all this furniture around? The hallways were stuffed, and it was while they were cleaning the classrooms, and he said, well, our custodial staff does that. So I just, you'd be shocked at the volume of furniture our staff moves and puts back. So thank you to them. Maintenance is right there along with them. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Daniel Sherman. He's our special projects coordinator on the maintenance department. He is helping to oversee our auditorium projects and our heating and air projects. And it's pretty simple to just say we're changing the heating and air at Crest and Burns. But when you walk in and actually see the rooms, go into the mechanical room, see the amount of pipe fitting and welding and 30 horsepower pumps and electrical controls and all of that stuff, it's really amazing the volume of work that those folks are doing and that Daniel is overseeing and doing quite a good job. Everything's on schedule or a little ahead of schedule, and I just want to tell him and maintenance and the custodians we appreciate what you guys do. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I think I heard Shores and Grigg. So.
Could I make one statement concerning something that happened today?
Yes, sir.
I'd like for you people to pray for Dr. Shaw. His mother-in-law passed away this week, and their funeral was this afternoon, and here he is here tonight. And how about praying for that family?
All right, we got a motion to adjourn. Those in favor? All right, thank you.